What's going on, guys? It's your boy Jacob from Topside MMA, and today we're going over my locks and traps for UFC Noche. You guys know the deal. We're going to rank all these fights from the most confident at the very top with the locks all the way down at the very bottom with my least confident picks with the traps. So without further ado, let's get right into it. First up, we got Santiago Luna versus Quang Lee. Now, I like Luna in this fight ever so slightly. I have this as a low confidence pick because it really could, I wouldn't be surprised if either way this fight went. However, I do lean Luna ever so slightly because I do like Luna's potential. From what we've seen so far at only 21 years old, this kid looks really, really good. I mean, for a 21-year-old, and that's the thing too, he has not been fighting his whole life. He just started training MMA within the last couple years. So to see him look as good as he is so far, it's really quite impressive, and it goes to show that I think there's a good amount of promise for this kid in terms of his future career down the line. Is this a bit too early? Possibly, but the thing is Quang Lee is not the guy that I think is going to be a world beater that's going to be way too much for him to handle. I think either way this fight goes, it's going to be very close. The thing about Luna is that, like I said, he hasn't been fighting that long. At 21 years old, he's only been fighting the last couple years in MMA. But the thing is that he's from Mexico, and he was a national wrestler or freestyle wrestler in Mexico. He's competing at the highest level in Mexico. And although Mexico isn't really known for their elite level wrestling, it still goes to show this kid has a very solid base of wrestling that I think is going to help him a lot in this fight, because Quang Lee really doesn't have an insane wrestling base to really fall back on like a Luna will. I know he's a good striker. He does have a good amount of skills on the ground, as we saw in his last fight in terms of the submission. So we know Lee can hang pretty much anywhere this fight goes. He's well-rounded in all areas. But the thing is like, I think Luna is going to have the striking speed edge and the power edge to really kind of take him just the next step, just to take him just slightly ahead of Lee in this fight. And the thing is, people are saying, well, what if Lee is able to take it to the ground and get a submission? That's totally valid to think that. I just think Luna's wrestling background is going to be able to keep this fight on the feet. I'm not worried about him getting hit with some sloppy takedown from Lee, and Lee takes him to the ground and gets him in a triangle choke in a matter of like 30 seconds. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think in terms of BJJ versus BJJ raw skills, Lee will probably be ahead. You have to assume he's had the much more extensive experience. I mean, he's over I think he's 30 something years old, 33, and Luna's 21. So I mean, obviously he has a much more extensive background in straight BJJ in terms of the raw submission abilities. I just don't think Luna's going to allow him to get it to that point. I think his wrestling base and his wrestling background should allow him to stop any potential takedowns that Lee might have. And as long as they're on the feet, this is going to be a very competitive striking match. I think Luna has the much bigger power in his hands. He's probably going to be a tad faster too, although I think the striking is pretty even in this fight. I'm not underestimating Lee's striking at all. It's just I think it's going to be a lot more competitive than people might think. And although the money line is very close, the odds are about dead even. So it's like it really could go either way. And I think the line is actually perfectly accurate. We haven't seen enough from Luna at a high level. He is beating lower level competition of guys. So it's like you can't put as much weight behind that. Whereas Lee, I know he hasn't had the best run in the UFC so far. That's pretty short. However, at least he's gotten a win at the UFC level. So it goes to show this guy can hang here. Although he's not some world beater going for the belt next, he's still a good level competitor, and I think it's going to be a good test for Luna just to kind of measure where his skill is really matching against a decent level opponent, considering his last couple fights have been against people who aren't necessarily the best. So I like Luna in this. I'm leaning him ever so slightly just because I think he has the potential to be great. I think he has the potential to be a really good fighter. Not like some crazy, insane prospect, unlike anything I've ever seen before, but from the tape that I saw of him, I think he'll be able to stand in the UFC, especially at only 21 years old. I think within the next couple years, even if he loses this fight, I think he will eventually get to the UFC regardless. So, because I know this is a bit of a short notice step up, that is something to consider here too. So I know the short notice, he's not going to have a full camp like Quang Lee did. I know Lee was preparing for a different opponent, so it's not like they've either had a full camp to prepare for their exact opponent, but at the same time, Lee has been training. He's been in camp, although against a different opponent. He's still going to be probably in better shape than Luna, but Luna being a really high level wrestler, you got to assume his cardio is decent enough to go all 15, as long as he's not doing some crazy high intensity type of a fight. But I think he's just going to have the little bit of an edge here in terms of the striking speed and power, and I think he should be able to be a step ahead of Lee in striking. But like I said, this could go either way. I don't want to ramble too much about this one because it could go either way, but I like Luna. Now, next up, we got Reese versus Dumas. I like Zachary Reese in here. I think Reese is really, honestly, just the better fighter than Sedriques Dumas in every single aspect of the sport. I mean, Dumas is his best aspect is going to be his straight punching, just power in his hands. The striking is decent from him, and that's probably going to be where they're the closest. But I just still think Zach Reese is probably a step ahead, even in the striking. I like Zach Reese. His durability has been a concern. He's made some goofy decisions in the past in some of his fights, but at the same time, Zach Reese is the type of guy who's pretty damn serious about his career. He's very focused, and he's dedicated to really getting as good as he can in every aspect of the sport. He has the much better ground game. The striking's competitive, like I said, but in terms of the heart and the mentality that you need to be a fighter, he has that. Whereas Sedriques Dumas, who knows where this guy's head is in? Where is his mentality at? He's just dealing with legal cases. He got arrested. They found him in a damn dog cage or dog crate, all caged in. Like, what is this man doing? He's smoking blunts with his kid around. Like, this man is doing the most crazy bullshit outside of the octagon. And it's like, yeah, he just got his ankle monitor taken off so that he can actually do a fight. I'm like, how is this man training? If he's locked up, how is he training if he's on house arrest? Like, I don't know what's going on in his life. I know he's dealing with a lot of BS, but a lot of it is really self-inflicted. So you can't pick someone who really isn't taking their career seriously and is kind of just a crash out. I can't pick someone like that with any level of confidence. At least I know Zach Reese. I can't have him as a lock just because we've seen Zach Reese shit the bed a couple times, just to say the least. There have been some times where Zach Reese has really not looked to his full potential, and I totally get why people have their hesitations. I do too. And I get why this line isn't wider, just because there's always that what if chance. What if Zach Reese goes and like knocks himself out or something? Like, don't get me wrong, there's a chance. Dumas could just come in here and starch him with a huge shot in the first 60 seconds. I would not be completely surprised. But I think as long as Zach Reese should take this fight to the ground, he takes this fight to the ground. He should be the much better submission artist. He should be able to get it done. It could be a knockout, could be a submission. I don't see this one going to the scorecards. But yeah, I like Zach Reese. He should be better in every aspect. I don't want to ramble about this one too much. But yeah, give me Zach Reese. Now, next up, we got Gastelum versus Stoltzfus. I got Gastelum, but I got this as a medium confidence pick. Now, I know some people are really confident in Kelvin Gastelum, but I think you can't look at the modern day Kelvin Gastelum and think that's who he was. He's the same guy that he was 5+ years ago. When Kelvin was going against Israel Adesanya and he was fighting the elite of the elite of the elite, yeah, that was years and years ago. That was when he really gave a shit about his career. Now he's really a natural welterweight and he's fighting at middleweight. It just goes to show this guy doesn't really take his career seriously like he should be. He's making food vlogs, missing weight, and then he goes and actually misses weight. It's like, at this point in his career, he's been through so many wars, so many battles. He knows he's not going to get the belt ever again, or not ever again, but he's never, ever going to get the belt. So it's like, you can't really have the same mentality that he did. It's like, he's not the same beast that he used to be, and it's like, it's really reflected. Joe Pyfer ran through him, not a good look there, and it's like, he's been known for his chin. He's known as like this guy who has the uncrackable chin, but it's like, at the same time, it's like, we just saw Joe Pyfer crack it multiple times, and he's getting dropped, and after a certain point of taking that many huge shots to the head, your chin's going to eventually start to crack. And Stoltzfus, he has good power. I mean, the dude has knockout power. He has the potential to end this fight. I don't think it's going to end by a knockout. If he were to finish Gastelum, I think the much more likely scenario would be a decision, most likely. But if it was a finish, it would most likely be a submission, because we've seen Gastelum submitted before. So it's a tough one, because I think Stoltzfus is, in terms of the technical skills, I think he's a step behind in every single aspect of the sport. It's purely just the heart. I know Stoltzfus is going to have that dog in him. He has that hunger. He wants to win this fight. He's going to want it more. And in a fight that, yeah, he's technically behind, it's still close enough to where that could make a difference. That can make this fight extremely greasy. And considering the line is decently wide, I don't know. This one just rubs me the wrong way, man. If Stoltzfus just purely is able to win this through grit and determination and the human spirit, I would not be surprised. If Kelvin shits the bed, gets cracked, loses a round in the scorecards, the next round is close, and then it's 1-1 going to the third round, I wouldn't be surprised if Stoltzfus was able to really pull that out just through pure grit, like I said. So this one kind of rubs me the wrong way, but I got to pick Gastelum just because on paper he is the technically better fighter. He's fought the higher level of competition. He's fought the who's who. He's the more experienced veteran. It's like, you got to pick Kelvin Gastelum, but it's like, this one worries me a bit. But anyway, next up, we got Hernandez versus Ferreira. This is another tough one. I'm picking Ferreira, but ever so slightly. I'm going to wait for weigh-ins to give my final pick on this, just because I didn't want Hernandez's last fight against Chase Hooper to influence my opinions all that much, because before that fight, I really have not been super high up on Hernandez. I was like thinking, like, how did I break down Hernandez before that Chase Hooper fight? I was like, really not all that impressed. I was confident in Chase Hooper. I thought he was going to be able to really have some good success in there. As long as he didn't get clipped, like we talked about, he could probably be able to take it to the ground. He never was able to do that, and that's where he would have had his major advantage. Hernandez is a beast, very strong, very fast, very athletic, and he was able to just clip him. So I'm not mind blown about that, but at the same time, I can't let that fight really completely 180 flip my opinions on Hernandez here. It's like, I just don't know how technically good he will be against a guy like Diego Ferreira. It's like, Ferreira, yes, he's 40 years old. Yes, he's getting older. Yeah, it's probably he's gonna start to slow down here. And on the other hand, Hernandez, he is looking in his physical prime right now, 32 years old. This is probably the best that we're gonna see of him. He's probably peaking in terms of his athletic speed, power, strength, and his technical skills. This is probably the peak of the road for Alexander Hernandez. So it's tough. It's tough to pick against him here, because I'm like, he is going to be so much much more physically strong and powerful and explosive than Ferreira is at 40 years old. That I think Ferreira will have the better ground game. Maybe not pure. It's not even that. I don't want to say wrestling, because if it's Hernandez, it's not that he's some crazy wrestler. It's just he's going to be so athletically explosive and powerful and strong. I wouldn't be surprised if he was able to take Ferreira down. But Ferreira is a high-level BJJ black belt, and I'm not worried about his ability to hang on the ground. If anything from Hernandez, it would be more of him throwing a grounded pound as opposed to going for a submission. But on the feet, Diego Ferreira is a good striker. It's just at 40 years old, is it going to slow down? I think technically he's going to be better than Hernandez, but in terms of the speed and the power, he might start to be slowing down here. I mean, we're going to see differences in him from fight to fight at 40 years old, so I'd be a bit hesitant in this one. I don't think this is a trap by any means, because I think it's pretty, I don't want to say obvious, but I mean, to me at least, it's pretty straightforward. There's not a whole lot of concerns or question marks here. It's really, is his speed, power, and athleticism going to be able to carry him to a win, or is Ferreira going to be able to technically kind of box his way to a win from range? Who knows? I'm leaning Ferreira ever so slightly, but I wouldn't be surprised either way this fight goes. And I'm going to wait until weigh-ins to make my final pick, because I think that'll make a big difference for this one. Now, next up, we got Rendon versus Pereira. I got this as a trap. This should be a trap for most people. If you're betting money on this, you're absolutely insane. You're absolutely insane. Actually, I do have a bet on this. I'll talk about that in my betting breakdown video. It's not what you think, though. It's not what you think. Now, the thing is, I'm picking Rendon. Is she a good fighter? No. Is she kind of washed? Yes. Is she serious about her career at this point? Probably not. Probably not. The thing is, though, people are forgetting. Pereira, I mean, and I know everyone's saying this, but in case you haven't heard, she's not Alex Pereira's sister. They're not related. But I know everyone's probably heard that and knows that at this point. But the thing is, Rendon is a BJJ black belt. She is a black belt. Pereira is a blue belt. All right. I'm going to give it just a moment of silence there. We have a black belt going against a blue belt. This is MMA. If this was kickboxing, Pereira would be a minus 10,000 favorite. I get it. But we got a black belt versus a blue belt in BJJ. She's taking this fight. Pereira is taking this fight. Short notice step up. Actually, it's not super short notice. I think they had like a month, I believe. Maybe, no, okay, I don't think it's that short notice. But anyway, she's taking this fight, and she is at an extreme disadvantage on the ground. Now, is Rendon some crazy wrestler that can land takedowns at will? No. But considering her short history in the UFC, I forget exactly what her takedown accuracy is, but it was actually pretty decent. I thought it was like 50-something%. Here, wait, let me look this up for you guys. But it was surprising me. It was only across 2 fights, 54% across 2 fights. Not terrible. And that worries me, because if Rendon is able to take this fight to the ground, if she's not able to submit a blue belt, I mean, what's her black belt worth at that point? It's like, at a certain point, I mean, if you're a high-level brown belt and you're going against a black belt, okay, maybe you're able to hang. Maybe you might be a step behind, but you're not going to get submitted. If a black belt cannot submit a blue belt, if this fight goes to the ground at any point, I'd be very scared. If I had money on Pereira, I'd be terrified if I saw this fight go to the ground at any point. And Rendon, she just wants to smother people on the ground. That's kind of what she wants to do, is just lay and pray and hug you like a wet blanket. So don't be surprised if she gets submitted in this fight. Now, what I'll say against that is Pereira is very much hyped up by the UFC. I mean, we got Mick Manor showing like a t-shirt with her, like responding to her on it. He's like posted videos of him FaceTiming her. Dana White's talked about her. Like, the UFC is advertising the shit out of Pereira. They want her to win badly. Youngest women's fighter in UFC history. I mean, it writes itself. Like, it feels like this is a layup spot for her to win. So I totally get it. Like, everything, the UFC badly want Pereira to win. So I'm very hesitant to believe they would give her a matchup that they think that she would lose. So I totally get why people are on Pereira. I'm going to wait until weigh-ins too, to really see if there's a big size difference between these two or anything that stands out. But man, I'm hesitant about this one, man. I think this is a trap. It's a trap either way you look at it, because it's like, okay, are you going to take the hype girl with a lot of hype on her, who the UFC wants to win, or are you going to take someone, okay, black belt versus blue belt? That's a big, scary difference, man, and this is MMA. I'd be very hesitant about this one, so I got this as a trap, because it could go either way. This could stay on the feet, and Pereira could look like a prodigy minus 10,000 favorite, or if this is on the ground, it's going to be very, very tricky. So that's why I got this one as a trap. But next up, we got Medina versus Todorovic. Now, Jose Medina is just not a good fighter. He's not a good fighter. He's going to be behind in every single aspect of the sport here, except purely the chin. I'd say the chin is the one thing he has going for him over Todorovic in this. But besides that, are we being serious? Who's picking Jose Medina? This is one of the easiest picks. I mean, you can't have it as a lock. I almost wanted to put it as a lock. But at the same time, Todorovic, he's had chin problems, man. If Medina hits him with some crazy shit, he could get knocked out. That's a possible reality. It's a possible reality. But at the same time, I really do think Todorovic, in his last fight, he's able to go to a decision. He screwed me. I had him to get finished in that fight. I thought either one of those guys were going to get finished, so I did get hosed on that bet. But at the same time, at least that showed me, okay, he can hang a little bit. At least he can go to a decision. He's not going to death gas in case Jose Medina is able to just brute his way to a decision, and somehow not get finished, because he does have a decent chin. So there is that possibility. If this goes to a decision, it could be close if Medina is just able to survive his way through it and make it ugly. But I just think he's going to be a step behind here in every aspect of the sport. He's literally probably one of the worst, if not the worst, UFC signings of all time. So Todorovic, hopefully he wins here. I want to see Todorovic wins, because he's really been brutalized in some of his fights. He's been fed to the wolves, so it's good to see him get a winnable fight. It feels like the UFC is kind of doing him a favor, which is honestly pretty justified. He deserves it. So Todorovic, pretty easy pick for me. He's better everywhere. There is the concern of his chin. That's the only thing he's lacking here, but that's not enough to make me worried about him not being able to beat Jose Medina. So that does it for this one. Next up, we got Aguilar versus Gurule. Now, this is a tricky one, because Gurule, we just saw him get knocked out in his UFC debut, but at the same time, it's against good level competition, so I don't really want to hold that against him all that much, because it was not a good look, but at the same time, Odie is a very quick, explosive striker, so to see him get clipped by him isn't really a huge red flag for me, honestly, and I think it's kind of dropping this line, seeing a hyped up UFC debut prospect get starched. It's cutting his line significantly, because Aguilar, now, I do think he's a solid fighter. He's been able to have success in the UFC, and I don't think he's as bad as people are saying he is. I think he's actually pretty decent. It's just, he's kind of a guillotine merchant. He's kind of looking for the submission, and if he can't get the guillotine, he'll give up a position to go for the guillotine. He'll jump a guillotine at any time. He goes out of his way to set it up, and I think against a guy like Gurule, who is experienced enough to be able to be aware of that, I feel like he's going to go into this fight with a clear game plan. Okay, let me just strike from this guy at range. I should be able to get the job done by a decision. Screw making it close. Screw dealing with the wrestling. And I think Gurule will have the wrestling advantage here in terms of just pure wrestling. But at the same time, are you going to shoot yourself into a guillotine? That's a potential reality here. That's Aguilar's bread and butter. So if I'm Gurule, fuck going into the wrestling, man. Let me just keep this at distance. Let me just strike from this guy for 15 minutes from range. Because, Aguilar doesn't really have any knockout power to be scared of. So Gurule really shouldn't be afraid of any strikes coming back his way, even coming off of that knockout loss. Maybe mentally in the back of his mind, like, oh shit, maybe I need to be a little bit more reserved. But against a guy like Aguilar, that's probably the best matchup he could have in terms of a striking threat. So Gurule should be a step ahead in all aspects of the sport. I think he's better literally everywhere except straight up guillotine chokes. I mean, other than that, he should be a step ahead. So I like him in the spot. It's just we saw him coming off of a loss. Can't have a ton of confidence in him just because we don't really know how he's going to compete at this UFC level. Yeah, he was undefeated before that loss. And yes, that loss was against a high-level competitor. But at the same time, you got to have a little bit of hesitancy. You can't go all in on Gurule here just because, he's very green, very new to the UFC. But Aguilar, he's definitely the veteran of the two here. He's had multiple fights in the UFC. So I like Gurule, but medium confidence pick. If he gets guillotined, I would not be completely mind blown. But at the same time, he has the skills to prevent that from happening. So I think he should be able to prevent that outcome from happening, keep it on the feet, and get the decision win here. That's how I likely see this fight going. Next up, we got Garcia versus Gordon. I got Gordon as a high confidence pick purely because I think he's better than Rafa Garcia in every single aspect of the sport. Same thing here. I don't think Garcia is better than him anywhere. And the thing is too, Garcia is honestly overrated to me. I don't think Garcia is particularly great anywhere. I think he's just kind of a jack of all trades that's kind of survived, had decent matchups. If you look at his record, he is not as good as his record implies. He just kind of, I don't want to say he's like the ultimate journeyman, but because he's young, I think he's 31 years old, so 32, somewhere in there. He's in his physical prime, so to be fair, he's probably going to look better and better within these last couple recent fights. He's going to continue to improve his game, whereas with Gordon, we've likely seen the best that we're going to see of him. 37 years old, he is going to start slowing down, and he's never been the fastest striker to begin with. His striking is very interesting because it's like he's never really been extremely fast. It's like, I don't know, his style of striking is kind of interesting. He has power in his hands. He's definitely a solid striker, a very good striker. It's just kind of like, I don't know, it's a bit, I don't want to say unorthodox, but it's just kind of a weird style to it, but I think in this fight, it's not going to be a huge difference. I think Garcia is really not a great striker. I just don't think he's great anywhere. So high confidence pick for Gordon for me, just because we've seen him go toe to toe against high level competitors. We saw him get robbed against Paddy Pimblett. We saw him get robbed against Hackpras. It's like the level of competition between these two is nowhere near the same, and Garcia would not be able to put up the level of fight and a level of performance that Gordon did against higher level competitors. So I like Gordon a lot in the spot. The 37-year age does worry me a bit. That's why I almost had him as my most confident medium level pick, but I put it at a high just because I'm not really very confident in Garcia. And if this was in like Mexico, maybe I'd have it as a medium confidence pick, because we've seen Gordon robbed on scorecards multiple times in his career. So what would stop him from one more? But we're in Texas. We're in the U.S. Gordon's from the U.S. If anything, he's going to have the advantage going his way. So I don't see Gordon getting finished. I don't think Garcia is all that dangerous to be able to do something like that. I think Gordon's going to be a step ahead. He should be able to get this job done by a decision on the scorecards. It could be a finish. I don't think there is, though. I see this likely going all 3 rounds. I see Gordon getting his hand raised, and I'm pretty confident in that. So I like him in this one. Now, next up, we got Sezinando versus Donchenko. I'm not going to lie. I have this as my lowest of low confidence pick because I just don't really have a ton of faith in the Ultimate Fighter, and I don't really watch. I watched multiple of these guys' fights, but it didn't really give me a whole lot of confidence either way. The thing is with Donchenko, yeah, he is pretty slick striking, pretty quick. He has some power. He's just very green and wasn't super impressive to me. Same with Sezinando. He's a bit of a brawler, and he's like throwing these absolute haymaker bombs. So I'm like, striking wise, he's probably going to be a step behind in terms of the speed. Maybe not the power, but in terms of the speed, yeah. The thing is, though, Sezinando is the natural. I forget, what are these guys? They're welterweights. He's the natural welterweight. And the thing is, with Donchenko, he was fighting at lightweight, and I was looking through his record, and he was a lightweight champion. I forget at one other division, promotion he was in. But recently, within the last year or two, he's been stepping up to welterweight. So at least Sezinando, I'm going to know that he is the natural welterweight, and he's going to likely have the size advantage here. And I think in terms of the grappling, Sezinando is going to be the better grappler, and he's going to have more brute force, not even the wrestling skill with the high-level takedowns to be able to take it to the ground. I could see him brute forcing his way to the ground. And I think if this goes to the ground, I'm going to trust the Brazilian's grappling. I'm going to trust his grappling more than Donchenko is from Ukraine. I'm going to trust that more. And from what I've seen of him, it's not even necessarily like he needs to go for a submission. I just like when he gets on top of dudes, he can land some mean ground and pound. He's just a very, physically empowering, strong force that has to be reckoned with. And I think him being the higher weight class naturally is going to play a factor in this fight. Like I said, I have this as my very lowest of low confidence. I know pretty much everyone's on Donchenko this week. So I guess I know I'm in the minority taking the underdog here. But I just think for the value, we literally just saw a couple weeks ago a minus 450, minus 500, whatever he was, undefeated Kazakhstan guy from the Ultimate Fighter get smoked. So these lines are wide enough to me, just to the point where I'm like, you know what? I think the value's probably on the underdog. So I'm going to pick him. But like I said, I haven't watched a ton on these guys. Neither of them really stood out to me. I'm not super excited about this fight at all, honestly. But hopefully it's a scrap. I mean, hopefully it's a fun, entertaining fight, but just I didn't get too invested in this one. So lowest low confidence pick. But yeah, I'm not reading a whole lot into this one. Now, another trap. We got Púleles versus Silva. The thing about, I know I got Púleles picked here, and I know people are kind of picking against him, but it's purely out of hate. You know what I mean? It's like, fuck this guy. I don't want to watch him be a wet blanket for 15 minutes. The thing that leads me to Púleles here, he's had a long layoff, and some people are saying, well, that might not be a good thing. You know, a long layoff, that's never a good sign. The thing is, though, he's very young, man. He's very young. He's about 30 years old at this point. So for him to take that long layoff, I'm going to have to trust, and I'm going to have to assume that his striking is going to develop within this time. You have to imagine he's developing his skill set. He probably took some time off. I didn't hear about any injuries. I wasn't able to see anything like that from what I've seen. So you have to imagine this kid's probably trying to improve his skills, because we know his grappling's good. Once he gets guys on the ground, it's a problem. And I don't think he's going to submit necessarily a guy like Silva, but at the same time, we know when he gets guys to the ground, it's a big problem for them, and he can likely hang you or hold you down there for a while. The thing is, it's like we haven't seen him in a minute. We haven't seen him. So it's like, if I have to trust that he's gotten significantly better, because it's been almost, what, I don't know, like year and a half, 2 years or something like that. It's been a long time off. So that's the only thing I have this as a trap. One, because people are really just hate picking against Púleles when he definitely has a chance to win this fight. Yes, the striking, he's going to be behind. Silva's going to have a power advantage on the feet. He's going to be more dangerous, more explosive on the feet in terms of the striking. Don't get me wrong. I totally get it. He could get knocked out here. I would not be surprised. But at the same time, he's the younger man. We haven't seen him in a while. I have to assume his skills are developing, and he's improving quite a bit. This one's a trap, man. I feel like there's too much emotion in here, and there's too much uncertainty in terms of what his Púleles really been looking like in recent years. I got this one as a trap, man. It's perfectly line. It's like even money line. It's like, who knows how this one's going to go. I would not have anything on this unless you're chasing some like crazy plus odds sprinkle prop. I would not don't let your emotions get the best of you and let you do something stupid on this fight. That's why I have this one as a trap. Next up, we got Costa versus Correa. I have this one as a high confidence pick, but I will say, with a little bit of hesitation, because I got it on the lower end of this, Costa, I think, is a bit overrated, and I think Correa is a bit overrated as well, too. Like, I don't want to say Costa is not the best. He almost feels like a Walmart brand Diego Lopes, and I know they train together and like they're in the same corner and everything, but it's just like I have Costa as a high confidence pick, so I don't want to be like, well, he's not really that good. I think he's good. I think he's solid. His ground game perfectly solid. His fight IQ is a concern. His striking is a concern. His chin, although it's held up, he has a good chin. He relies on it, and he's been popped a couple times. That gives me a bit of concern of like, once this guy starts fighting real high-level competition, he's going to struggle. I mean, we've seen that before when he fought Albazi, but at the same time, when he starts to fight these upper-level dudes, I don't know how well he's going to look when he really jumps up in competition. Now, the thing is, Correa's just not that guy. He's just not that guy. A lot of people are hype on him, saying he could just instantly walk into the UFC right now. Maybe. I'm not saying he couldn't, but from what I've seen, I just wasn't blown away. Like, the way that some people have talked about Correa that I've seen is just like, from what I've seen, maybe I went into it with my expectations too high. Maybe that's the case, but I just was like, looks all right. And the fact he's taking this against I don't want to say UFC veteran, but I mean, the much more UFC experienced guy. And compared to the two of them, yeah, Costa is definitely a veteran compared to the two of them. So he's going against a short notice. Correa's taking this on short notice, fighting a decently level competition. You know, Costa is a damn good UFC fighter. He's not the best of the best, maybe a tad bit overrated, but he's still, at the end of the day, a very good fighter. And I just think it's going to be too much, too soon for him. The money line is crazy. You know, if it was a bit closer, I'd probably have more on it. It is a bit wide, minus what, 400 something. I'm not even going to say it's bad value because it makes sense. But at the same time, and I have it as a high confidence pick, so I'm like, I don't want to make y'all seem like I'm super worried about this because I do have it as a high confidence pick because he should be. I mean, he's probably going to be better everywhere. He's probably going to be a better striker. Definitely on the ground in terms of the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, he's definitely going to be ahead. He has the better camp in his corner. It's like, I do have my concerns because I forget who Korea's training with he has some solid dudes in his corner too. I forget who he was training with. I looked it up. I just can't remember. But it seems like too much too soon. They're pulling Korea up too because he's from Texas. That's where this card is. It makes sense why he was pulled up, and it seems more so he was pulled up because of like, hey, we need someone versus you're the one that we really want, So it does worry me about Korea. I think he's behind, and I think everything is going against him in this fight. That's why I have Costa as a high confidence pick, but I think I'm a little bit less confident than the odds might suggest. Although there is some value there. It's just a bit wide. But anyway, enough with this one. Next up, we got Suarez versus Lemos. Now, this is kind of the same thing. I had this as my least highest confidence pick purely because all the other high confidence picks I have, I think the one fighter that I picked is better than the other guy in every aspect of the sport. That's why I have them as very high confidence picks, because it's like, could they lose? Potentially, because they do, each of them have their little concerns, their little caveats. We have Reese, he has the chin problems. Todorovic, he has the chin problems. We have Gordon, he's getting older, 37 years old, fighting the younger man. And Costa, I guess, he is a bit ahead in every aspect. There's nothing I'm really too worried about him. It's just, there's a little bit of ambiguity there, or unknowns with this one. But with Suarez versus Lemos, this is the one that's not the case like that. Suarez is not going to be the better striker. In fact, her striking is going to be a step behind. Amanda Lemos, that is her bread and butter, is the striking, as you all know. Thing is though, that worries me about this is that, yes, we know that Tatiana Suarez she's had some injury problems in the past. I was watching her footage. I was watching her footage of her training sessions. If you look at her, she's training all mobility work, man. All what she was doing, strength, conditioning, mobility work. At this point, it's like, from what I saw of her training, it makes it seem like she just knows she needs to come in here in her best physical shape. And it's not like she needs to worry about too much else. Now, I don't want to say Lemos has bad BJJ, because I don't know exactly what her belt is. You have to imagine it's very high. She's probably a black belt. She's probably a very high level grappler. But at the same time, I was looking through her past, and I was like, she gave Jessica Andrade her first submission, or her second submission, since 2016. I'm like, oh my God. I know Verna got her too. So it's like, that's not a bad loss. But at the same time, Verna's not really submitting a ton of girls at this level. So it's like, Tatiana Suarez, yes, she's the world-renowned wrestler. It's not necessarily her grappling. She had to adopt that more recently in her career when she switched from wrestling to MMA. But at the same time, I'm like, Suarez is so physically dominant that if she gets this fight to the ground, she could get that submission. And Lemos' submission defense does worry me enough. If you're letting Jessica Andrade submit you, I think Tatiana Suarez should be able to submit you as well. So I have this as a high confidence pick. Now, what I will say though, I am considering a potential hedge on this, just because I think realistically, Suarez, I don't know if you guys can see from the picture on this, Suarez has a big head. She has a big black head, and I don't see her getting knocked out. She's definitely not getting submitted. So if you think there's any potential of Lemos winning this fight, which is valid, Lemos is a very high level women's MMA fighter, take her by decision. I looked at the line today. It's literally plus 800. If that's how you think she wins, I think that's decent value. I might have a sprinkle on that, because I think Suarez, she could win this by submission. She could win it by decision. Those two being most likely, possibly a knockout. I don't think so, though. Most likely submission or decision. But Lemos, her way to win this fight is by a decision. That's how she's winning this fight. So taking her money line essentially at plus 800, I think the value's there, but that's just the betting side. We'll talk about that. I am going to release my betting video later today, or early tomorrow morning, but hopefully later today. So we'll talk about that in more detail. But at the same time, Suarez should be ahead here in the wrestling. It should be a wide enough of a gap. We've seen Lemos really struggle against high-level grapplers who are able to take her down. I don't want to say at will, because Lemos does have a notoriously good takedown defense. But when she fights high-level wrestlers and high-level grapplers, Weili was able to have her way with her. And it's like, yes, I get it. Weili's the GOAT. But it's like, we've seen her struggle before. And it's like, even when people don't necessarily land a super high clip of the takedown rate, because I think Verna didn't even land. I think her takedown rate or ratio was really bad in that fight. I think she only went like 1 for 6, if I'm remembering correctly. That's all it took to get her out of there. It really didn't take a whole lot. I'm sorry, I'm just double checking this really quick, make sure I'm accurate with this. What did she go? Yeah, Verna went 1 for 5 on takedowns. That's all she needed, though. Lemos was able to keep it on the feet for quite a bit, but it only took one. It only took one, and that was a second round submission too. So it literally took her 2 full rounds to land 1 takedown, but that's all it took. It was a submission. It was the armbar too. Oh yeah. At the very end of that second round too. So it just goes to show, yeah, it might take her a minute, but if she gets her down there, I think she probably has enough. And if Verna's able to do it, if Jessica Andrade is able to do it, I think Tatiana Suarez is going to be able to do it too. You can't rule her out. You can't say Suarez is washed just because she lost to Weili. Was it the best look? No. However, Weili's the GOAT. I'm not writing her off because of that. And I think Suarez, this should be a good bounce back spot for her, because she has the method to win here. She has the way to win. She knows that. She's smart. She's trained. So give me Suarez. I'm very confident. If she can take this to the ground, I see her submitting Lemos. That's realistically how this fight should go. That's why I have her as a high confidence pick. But I digress. Next up, we got Font versus Martinez. I got this as a trap. This is the most traps I think I've ever had. I considered putting Gastelum versus Stoltzfus down here too, but Font versus Martinez, this is a trap for me. When are we going to learn? When are we going to learn? Now, I am not a Rob Font fan. I'm not a Rob Font fan. He cost me money on Kyler Phillips. Shame on me, I guess. Shame on me. But he cost me money there. And then who did he just beat? Jean Matsumoto. He went for a dirty, fake glove touch, and this old bitch somehow robbed his way to a win through dirty voodoo magic and some BS. So screw Rob Font. I'm looking to fade his ass. He's cost me money and happiness because I like Jean Matsumoto. So emotionally, I'm against Rob Font on this. The thing is, though, fool me twice. What is it? Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. Fool me 3 times, I'm an idiot. Am I going to let Rob Font screw me for the 3rd time? It's him. Anytime you see Rob Font versus a prospect, he's going to be a trap in my videos. Same with Christian Rodriguez. Did the same shit with Christian Rodriguez. I'm like, oh my God. C-Rod has smoked me on 3 different prospects, and I'm not picking against him when he fought Melky Costa. I'm like, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. He screwed me. He's cost me money. He's cost me happiness. C-Rod has done irreversible damage to my pockets and my mental. And what does he do? He gets smoked by Costa. So I'm like, I feel like this is a lose-lose. If I pick against Rob Font, he's going to put on a masterclass. And if I pick him here, which I haven't picked as of right now, David Martinez is going to come in here, starch, knockout, round 1, 30 seconds. Rob Font's going to get pulled out in a stretcher. I feel like no matter how I pick this, it's going to go the opposite way. So, that being said, this is why I have it as a trap. Now, Rob Font is 38 years old. Yeah, but the thing is, though, he's still proving that he can hang at this level. So it's like, it's not like there's a question mark of, well, we haven't seen him fight in 2 years, coming off a big layoff. No, Rob Font is active as shit, and he's still performing at the highest level. And he's beating prospects. No matter how close, he's still beating them. Whereas David Martinez, very green. David Martinez, I feel like he relies more on his power as opposed to pure skill. Sometimes he's hittable, and it's like his striking is kind of interesting. He has this super jittery crackhead type striking where he's just totally spazzing out there. And I feel like in a fight that's gonna go 15 minutes, when you're that tense and you're that spazzy and twitchy, it's gonna drain your cardio. And the other thing that worries me about Martinez in this fight is that he's a doctor. Not that he's a doctor, that's awesome. Amazing for him. But the thing is he's not going to be as dedicated to the craft. I mean, he literally cannot be as Rob Font is. They cannot put the same amount of commitment, time, and effort being a doctor and being a full-time fighter. I mean, Rob Font is the full-time fighter. Martinez is a doctor and part-time, full-time fighter. You can't do both, and there's not the same amount of effort from both guys. There just physically cannot be. So that does worry me in this, because it's how good is Martinez going to look as he starts fighting this upper level of competition? When he's not able to get starch knockout on guys, he's not going to look as good as people might think he is. Now, in his last fight, his Contender Series fight, because who did he just knock out? in his last fight. Who was that? I'm blanking on his name. Simon Oliveira. Not high on Simon Oliveira. He was really not a good prospect, a bit shinny. He was a huge favorite. David Martinez was a huge favorite in that fight. And that win doesn't really mean a whole lot. If anything, I was looking more so at his Contender Series fight when he took on, who was it? Xavier Franklin. That was a decently competitive match. And I think Rob Font would likely smoke that guy. So it's like, fool me once, shame on me, but Rob Font has screwed me so many times. I'm like, when am I going to learn my lesson and stop picking against Rob Font? But I feel like the second I do is going to be when he gets smoked. And either way, I've said it 3 times at this point. So the pick is Rob Font for now. I am going to wait for weigh-ins. David Martinez, he's young and he's green, so he's going to look better from fight to fight. So I get why people are thinking, okay, well, we've seen the best out of Rob Font, whereas with David Martinez, there's still unknowns that we don't know about yet. Totally valid. I just don't know if it's going to be enough. I don't know if it's really enough to push me his way. I think Rob Font, and that's the thing here too, is Martinez likes to keep it on the feet. Rob Font, if he was fighting Raul Rosas Jr., then, that's going to be interesting. Maybe Raul would have been the one to end the reign of Rob Font because they know the grappling is concerned for him. But the thing is, Rob Font, ever since he switched camps, he's kind of had like a second resurgence in his career. So I'm not down Rob Font anymore, man. The pick's him for now. I'm going to wait for weigh-ins for the final pick. I'll have that in a later video later today. But this is a trap for a reason, man. Rob Font, he finds a way to win. I can't keep getting burned by Rob Font. I refuse to do it. And I don't want you guys to get burned either. So that's why I have it as a trap. Last but not least, the main event, which y'all have been waiting for. I got Jean Silva as a lock this week. Now, I know that's going to piss a lot of people off. I know people are going to be mad about that one. I know it's going to upset some people. Be like, oh, you casual, you fighting nerds, D-Rider. No. Hear me out. No one loves Diego Lopes more than me. I love Diego Lopes. He's made me so much money in the past. I have max bet Diego Lopes more than any other fighter. I max bet him against Dan Ige. Max bet him against Brian Ortega. He's made me corn. And no one loves Diego Lopes more than me. I like him as a person, as a fighter, and as a financial investment. He's solid. He's good everywhere. The thing is, though, I just think Jean Silva is better everywhere. Minus maybe technical submission abilities. Maybe purely technical BJJ. Sure, give Diego Lopes a slight edge there. I just don't think that's going to make a difference at all. This fight is not going to be a matter of who's the slicker submission artist. It's going to be who's the stronger man who can impose their will on the ground, who can win the scrambles, who can be the more dominant, not pure wrestler, but who can get to a top position on the ground, not who can land a submission. Jean Silva is a ball of power, thunder, and might. He is a nuclear bomb reincarnated into a man, and they put him in a 5'6" Brazilian, and then they gave him a ton of trauma and BS he's gone through in his life, and that is Jean Silva. He is an explosive freak of nature with nuclear bomb power, great cardio, great durability. You cannot finish this man. You cannot hurt this man. I've never seen this man even remotely cracked. This dude is a walking fireball nuclear bomb. Quite literally. Now, that's not all the reasoning for this. All right, first let's break down Diego Lopes. Now, Diego Lopes, I say, in my opinion, is a tad bit overrated. I think all the TikTok edits really get to people's heads, and they kind of get them to forget the actual facts of a fight. So when we break down Diego Lopes, we're going to break down all of his fights here in the UFC. We're going to break them all down, and this is going to tell you my reasoning why. Now, Diego Lopes has a major cardio concern. People are saying, no, it's not. No, he doesn't have a cardio concern. Yes, Diego Lopes has a cardio concern. Anytime Diego Lopes is forced to grapple at all, he slows down. Anytime Diego Lopes goes for a submission, he slows down. Anytime he exerts any type of high-level force in any grappling sense, he burns out. And it's pretty ridiculous to the point where it's like almost mind-blowing. And people are like seeming to like not realize that, forget that. I don't know. So we're going to break down his longer fights. All right. 2021. He got destroyed by Joe Anderson Brito. Dominated. Purely beat down, dominated. It was an ass kicking. It was not even remotely close. And that was in the grappling. And it was purely Joe Anderson Brito. Yeah, he's good on the ground, but he was just a stronger man. He was able to impose his will. He was able to just use brute force, take him down, control him, landed some ground and pound that was disgusting. He made Diego Lopes look like an amateur out there. You could say, well, that was years ago. That was 4 years ago. That's not that long ago. Like that's not If it was like 8 years ago, yeah, sure. 4 years ago, that's still relevant. And we just saw Joey Anderson Brito get dominated by Pat Sabatini. Dominated. I mean, he had no chance in that fight. And we saw Joey Anderson Brito do that to Diego Lopes. I'm not saying you got to use MMA math, but at the same time, that stands out to me. That was like, ooh, not a good look. Then Movsar Evloev, I don't even blame him necessarily for that loss. But let's not pretend like he didn't get work there either. Now, it was a bit closer than his fight against Brito, but at the same time, what was it? Unanimous 29-28? Or no, one judge had 27-30, the others were 29-28. Still got worked. So that's when this guy's going to a decision. That's when Diego Lopes goes long. Now, he submits Gavin Tucker in a round. He knocks out Pat Sabatini in a round. He knocks out Sodiq Yusuff in a round. Those 3 fights mean nothing to me. They mean absolutely nothing because stylistically, that doesn't mean shit in this fight. Jean Silva has the durability of Bedrock from Minecraft. This dude is not getting finished. He's not getting submitted in the first round. He's not getting knocked out. So stylistically, those fights literally mean nothing to me. They cannot influence my decision making at all. I'm only looking at fights that go long. Now, after those 3 fights, that little run he went on, no, it was 1, 2, 3. Yep. After those 3 fights, he fights Dan Ige. Dan Ige takes this fight on 4 hours notice. He literally rolls out of bed, eats a bowl of cereal or whatever he had, and goes and fights Diego Lopes. He almost could have lost that fight. He could have lost that fight. If that was a 5-round fight, Diego Lopes would have lost that fight. Let that be known. Let that be known clear as day that he would have lost that fight. He almost could have got finished at the end of that fight. He ended that fight. Dan Ige was landing mean ground and pound. He was fucking him up. It was not a good look. That fight, when I look back on that fight too, I remember Diego Lopes winning pretty dominantly, but I'm like, I look back, I'm like, no, that was a clear 29-28 against the journeyman of the division who just got starched by Pitbull. And that was a competitive 29-28 off 4 hours notice. That is a major red flag because Dan Ige, I think, is worse than Jean Silva in every aspect, except maybe durability. But even then, no, we saw Dan Ige hurt in his last fight. So that is a major red flag to me. Then he fights Brian Ortega, and he is death gassed in that fight. Towards the end of that fight, he is tired. It's just anytime he exerts energy and pressure, because it's like it's early on too in these fights. In the Dan Ige fight, I'm trying to look. I'm going round by round. It was after the second round. That's what it was. In the second round, he has 3 minutes and 10 seconds of control time. After that, he's done. He is tired. He is burnt out. He is gassed. The third round, he's literally on the back foot the entire time because he is so exhausted from that. And he had an entire camp to prepare for that. And what does he do when he fights Brian Ortega? It's not as bad, but I look at the time. This is what it was. The first round, he gets 2 minutes and 3 seconds of control time. He's going for a submission. He has it going. I guess they don't count it as a submission attempt. I swore it was. But they're not counting it. But he had 2 minutes and 3 seconds of control time, shoots 1 out of 1 takedown, gets it. But after that, literally after a round and a half, he's tired. Brian Ortega's corner is telling him, hey, this dude's tired. Like, he's tired. You work him, push the pace. And the third round, he's even more tired. Not a good look. Not a good look against either of these guys. And I don't think they're necessarily world beaters. I think Jean Silva would go and run. I don't want to say run through, but Jean Silva, I think, would clearly beat Dan Ige or Brian Ortega in any regard. And that's the thing too. This is 2024 Brian Ortega. That's not Brian Ortega from 5+ years ago. This is a whole different Brian Ortega. Then, the reason why people are saying, well, Diego Lopes' cardio is not bad, it is because of his fight against Volk. The thing is, if you go and look at that fight, that was a striking match. There was no grappling. Diego Lopes did not go for any grappling in that fight. If you look at the totals for this fight, what was the total control time? Diego Lopes had 5 seconds of control time. 5 seconds of control time throughout that entire fight. Because he knew if he went to grapple, he was fucked. He was going to burn out. He could not push a grappling pace for 5 rounds. He was extremely timid and he had to keep it on the feet. That was the only way he was able to go full 5 rounds was by keeping it on the feet. And as a result, he got worked by the better striker. Now, Volk is, if not the GOAT of the division, he's top 2. Top 3. So, don't get me wrong. However, it's an older Volk. We're talking 36, 37-year-old Volk here. Not prime Volk. I'm not saying Volk is washed because he looked career best in that fight. But at the same time, the better striker was clearly ahead. He lost a 49-46 to Volk. And it's not even Volk. It was a 49-46 where he got clearly outstruck. His hands are not as good as people think they are. He has a ton of power and a ton of durability. But when he can't hurt people and get them out of there and knock them out, he loses. It's a problem when he can't. In a 3-round fight, Diego Lopes is very, very good because realistically, he's going to win the first 2 rounds and then gas out and lose the third. In a 5-round fight where he's going to be the worst striker, he's not going to be a better striker than Jean Silva. I don't get how people can think that. Look at the stats between these two. You know, we can do that too because there's another stat I want to talk about. But the stats between these two, Diego Lopes is negative in every single striking stat regard you can think of. He is completely negative. He doesn't even land 50% of significant strikes. He can't even block half of them. Literally, his significant striking accuracy is 47%. His significant striking defense is 46%. He's below the 500 mark on both his accuracy and his defense. He can't hit and he can't block. Literally. And then you look at his ratio too, or his differential. He's landing 3.7 strikes per minute, and he's absorbing 4.7 strikes per minute. So he's about -1 on his differential for significant strikes. That is not good. That is a bad look, especially when you're going against a guy like Jean Silva, who, yes, Jean Silva doesn't have as much volume. He's a lower volume striker, but he's defensively a lot more sound. So we just went over those stats for Diego Lopes. His significant striking differential is -1. His accuracy is 47% and his defense is 46%. You compare that to Jean Silva, who his differential is positive, about 0.8 is positive. It's 4.87 strikes landed and it's 4.13 absorbed. And you look at his striking accuracy, 52% significant striking accuracy and 56% significant striking defense. So yes, Jean Silva isn't landing quite as much, but I mean, actually no, 4.87 compared to he's actually technically landing more than Diego Lopes. So I guess I'm not even right about that. Even the volume's different. But Jean Silva, in terms of the actual statistics, he's ahead in every single step of the striking. Every single step. It's like not even remotely close. And I know you can't just look at it off of purely statistics because the level of competition is not the same. Obviously, I totally get that. But at the same time, they have enough of a sample size to the point where that stands out enough to me to where when one guy is ahead in quite literally every single aspect, that's enough for me. And it's not even just the stats too. I've literally watched all of each of their fights. Jean Silva's striking is so unconventional and so, I don't want to say goofy. It's just, he's willing to give one to take one. And we saw Diego Lopes, when he did that in his fight against Volk, he was hurt. He got rocked in the first round, he got rocked in the second round. Yeah, he rocked Volk at one point, but it was because he hit him in the eye. He nicked his eye with his pinky when he threw a punch. So chin for chin, his chin was holding up worse than Volk's. And I know he knocked Volk down at one point in time. I know, I get that. But at the same time, he was getting rocked by an older Volk, and Volk still has good power, but it's not like Volk has some Topuria level power. Volk, definitely strong hands, do not get me wrong. And he's so accurate that when he hits you in the right spot, yeah, he can put guys out. Jean Silva has detrimental power. Jean Silva has power where when Diego Lopes was getting knocked and getting clipped, like getting wobbled, if Jean Silva hits you with that shit, you're going night-night. Or maybe not even night-night, but it's going to be a bad day. And we saw at the end of that first round of Volk versus Lopes, we saw Volk was throwing him around, man. It's almost like Diego Lopes wasn't willing to fully exert himself in the grappling, and he was accepting being thrown down by Volk. He's accepting the ground and pound because he just didn't want to gas himself out. And I think in a 5-round fight, this is going to benefit Jean Silva. Jean Silva, we've never seen him slow down. You can't doubt a man's cardio when you've never seen him slow down before. And on the other side, we've seen Diego Lopes slow down in every single fight that's not when he's knocking someone out or finishing them in the first minute. He slows down in every single fight where there's an ounce of grappling. And now he's going against Jean Silva, who is stronger than Volk, more powerful than Volk, and he's going to try and grapple him. If I was Jean Silva, I would try and burn Diego Lopes out early. Burn him out with the grappling. Push the high pace. I trust Jean Silva's cardio a hell of a lot more than Diego Lopes's. We saw Diego Lopes go all 5 when he was able to strike with Volk from distance for 5 rounds. Yeah, they just keep it a striking match for sure. I think it can be competitive. I think Diego Lopes's cardio can hang in a 5-round purely striking match. They start implementing grappling. If Brian Ortega. If Diego Lopes goes for a single submission and he can't get it, and he's spending 2 minutes on the ground, squeezes in a choke, he can't get it, he's fucked. He is going to death gas. I don't know what his approach is here too, because he's just coming off a 5-round loss to Alexander Volkanovski, where you could tell he was definitely keeping it more on the safer side. He did not want to grapple. He did not want to burn out. As you can look at through his striking stats of that fight, he started to ramp it up in the last round. He's kind of like, he started off slow and then he started to ramp it up because it was like, you could tell he was trying to conserve himself because he was so used to gassing out before, but it's because there was no grappling. Your grappling cardio and your striking cardio, two different gas tanks. They're not created equal. So he's used to gassing out when it goes to grapple. But it didn't happen because he was striking. He was actually looked pretty fresh. His cardio seemed to hold up when he was just striking. Jean Silva is so physically empowering. If he takes Diego Lopes down and they're scrambling on the ground, Diego Lopes is going to gas. That's the other thing I'll say too about the gas tanks. I was looking through Diego Lopes's fights. What do you do when you're a boxer? What do you do when you want to burn someone's cardio? You want to break him down. You don't hit him in the head. You don't do that. That's the thing we know about Diego Lopes. He has an iron chin. And I know I'm rambling about this fight. I got more to talk about. But I'm looking at the time right now. But Diego Lopes has a damn good chin. So there's no point of just spamming headshots. I mean, Jean Silva would be the one to knock him out. Don't get me wrong. But if I'm Jean Silva, I'm not putting a ton of emphasis on that because we've seen Diego Lopes, yes, he has a cardio concern. And my point of all this is, yes, he has a cardio concern, but how do you, as a boxer, how do you hurt someone's cardio? How do you wear their body down? How do you kill their energy and their stamina? You hit him to the body. And what does Diego Lopes not have? What has he not been experienced to? Body shots. If you look through his fights, I went through all the numbers on his fights. I wrote them down here too, so I didn't have to pull them up one by one. Volk landed 5% of total significant strikes to the body. Before that, Ortega landed 6% of total significant strike shots to the body. Now, I'd say in the recent fights, that's when he's looked his best. I said his cardio looked the best in the Volkanovski fight. When 1, there was no grappling, and 2, Volk only landed 5% of total shots to the body. Volk was headhunting the entire time. He was going only headshots pretty much that entire fight, and he was trying to get him out of there. Diego Lopes is durable enough to where I don't see him getting knocked out, and I think that was a bad decision on his part. We know Diego Lopes's main weakness is not his power. We know he has power. It's not his chin. We know he has a damn good chin. It's not the grappling. We know he's a very high-level BJJ black belt. It's the cardio. That's how you beat Diego Lopes, is you drag him into tough waters, you break him down, and you tire him out. And if you're not throwing body shots, you're just not even trying at that point. It seems like that's just a way that other fighters have just really not pushed Diego Lopes like they could. You know, it's like it's an obvious hole there. Hit him, because that's the thing too. Diego Lopes, he has such a high guard. If you watch, like he's a very high guard. Body shots are open. You know, land a teep down the middle. Hit him with the sidekick. Hit him with something. Hit some body shots. And that's the thing though. If you look at Jean Silva, you look at his stats. Jean Silva lands, out of all the significant strikes that Jean Silva has landed, 27% of those strikes are to the body. Jean Silva rips the body because that's how you hurt guys. That's how you break them down. That's how you wear them down. You hurt their cardio. That's how you get them down. Jean Silva lands nearly a third of all significant strikes to the body. Jean Silva doesn't throw shit to the legs. I was looking through his stats. It's very, very low legs. I think it's like 3% legs, 30% body, and the rest of the head, which is kind of interesting. But anyway, the point is the body strikes are there. Jean Silva likes to work guys with the body. That's how you break guys down. And Diego Lopes has never really faced guys who are trying to do that. The person he did fight who threw the most, guess who? Dan Ige. Dan Ige threw 9% total of significant strikes to the body in that fight. And that's a third of what Jean Silva throws. And guess which fight he was gassed the most in? The Dan Ige fight. Because he grappled the most, he got hit the most of the body, and by that third round, he was death gassed. He was gassed. He was on the back foot, unwilling to engage, holding Dan Ige against the fence and holding on for dear life. At one point, Dan Ige is on top, landing ground and pound, and he's just holding on. He's just like trying to hold on by any means possible. I don't know what he's doing, but he's just trying to survive. Jean Silva, if he works the grappling, pushes a heavy pace early on, he's going to break Diego Lopes. I could see Diego Lopes getting finished here, 4th, 5th round. He's going to take a beating. The only person who's lasted long against Jean Silva, besides Kevin Vallejos, because that was an all-striking match. You know, they kept it on the feet. He was clearly ahead. I think Kevin Vallejos has better striking than Diego Lopes. And he still dominated, and I don't want to say dominated, but clear 29-28 there. And the only person who lasted long before that was Drew Dober. The only person to make it to the 3rd round was Drew Dober, and he got beaten up so brutally bad. It's not his chin gave up on him, his literal face gave up on him from being slaughtered and smashed so many times. Dude, if this goes long, Diego Lopes is going to be in a world of pain and a world of hurt, and I don't think he's going to ramp up the longer this goes. I think the longer this fight goes, I think if this was a 3-round fight, I would not have Jean Silva as a lock. I think it would be a lot, I don't want to say a lot closer, but I think Diego Lopes, if Diego Lopes was in a 1-round fight against Jean Silva, I'd say it'd be a coin toss. I'd say a perfect coin toss. I think Diego Lopes is explosive, very good early on. If it was just a 1-rounder, be very, very, very close. I'd have this as a low confidence pick, but it's a 5-rounder. And I just don't see him. I don't see him hanging in here. I don't see him really having a way to equalize this fight. The only fight, or the only round that he won against Volk was when he was able to really hurt him and get him going with the eye shit. That was the only round that he won that entire fight. He's not hurting Jean Silva. He's not doing it. He has a better chin, a much better chin than Volk. Much better chin. He's not getting hurt. If anyone's getting hurt, it's going to be Jean Silva doing the hurting against Diego Lopes. If this gets to a ground and pound situation, I don't even necessarily think that Jean Silva is going to knock Diego Lopes out cold. I just think if Jean Silva gets to the ground and he gets to a dominant position and there's a ground and pound and he has more than 15 seconds until the bell, Diego Lopes is going to he's going to go night night, or the fight's going to be over. If he gets to if Diego Lopes gets ground and pounded for more than 20 seconds, I don't see him surviving those strikes, man. It's going to be way too much. I know I'm rambling about this, but I'm very confident in Jean Silva. I'm very, very confident in him. I say if these guys fight 10 times, I would say Jean Silva probably wins 8 out of 10 times. And I'm very confident in that. I mean, I don't see a single path for Diego Lopes to win this fight. I think the cardio is going to be a major problem. Jean Silva can push the grappling. He's not afraid. We saw him do it against Bryce Mitchell. He's not afraid to grapple. And although, yeah, Diego Lopes is definitely a better submission artist than Bryce Mitchell, still goes to show he's not afraid to grapple with the grappler. He's not afraid of that. He has the cardio to hang there. And I feel bad for Diego Lopes, man. If he gets starts here, I like Diego Lopes. I like both these guys a lot. So there's no bias in this at all. I just think Jean Silva is going to have the belt. He's going to have the belt. I don't know who he's going to take it from. If he takes it from Volk or whoever, Laurel Murphy, who the hell knows, but he's going to get the belt at some point. And I think Diego Lopes is the next stepping stone for Jean Silva to get the belt. So that does it for this video. I know it's a bit longer. I'm rambling about this, but I really do think Jean Silva wins this. I really am pretty confident he wins it. I have it as the lock for a reason. So that does it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching the locks and traps for UFC Noche. I know definitely going to have some people disagreeing about that lock. So if you disagree, let me know. If you agree, let me know about any of these in particular. I love to hear all your guys' opinions. But yeah, I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this one. Sorry for the late upload. I just had a lot of shit going on in my life personally. It's been a long week, so I know this video is coming up late, but I'm trying my best here. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for all the love, all the support. It means a ton. Thank y'all for all the support over the last couple months. It's been absolutely awesome. It means the world. And we're gonna have much more consistent schedule coming up. Just this week has been a tough week for your boy, so I apologize. But gonna have this video up. Have the best bets video up later this week. Or I mean later today. Actually, it's Friday. And I'm also gonna try and do something with the weigh-ins too, give you guys a good little recap for that too. So it's gonna be a long day, but I'm gonna be working all day today on this, so got the time. Gonna get these videos out. Thank you guys once again for all the love and support. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and once again, it's your boy Jacob from Topside MMA, and I'll see y'all soon. So peace.